Hello, welcome aboard stage 2 of the Giro d'Abruzzo in another, once again, lovely, sunny, temperate day in Italy. Perfect for racing. You've just seen the clips of yesterday's stage, that nasty crash on that gravelly corner. Could have done with not seeing that again, but it did shape part of the race in the chase back. And you also saw yesterday's winner too, Alessandro Covi, getting his 4th professional victory, which I was surprised at yesterday. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Looking back at yesterday's breakaway, 3 men in that break. That's when it became 2, unfortunately. And it's also, well, we're reminding ourselves what a good day it was for Matteo Zurlo of SC Padovani, the Polo Cherrybank team. We then had this breakaway go clear with a lot of favourites in it once they had been caught, those 2 that were remaining. A couple of chasers trying to get across, but it was looking all the time like it was going to come down to a big uphill sprint finish. UAE Team Emirates and Ivo Oliveira specifically doing a lot of hard pulling to make sure Alessandro Covi was in the perfect position to enable his brilliant uphill sprint, and that's exactly what he did. Looked like the others were starting to close on him, but they weren't actually. The front shot foreshortening the gap between him and Filippo Fiorelli, who was second, to give us an all-Italian top 3 yesterday. Alessandro Covi, the winner, from Filippo Fiorelli, and Alessandro Fancellu, the Italian, on the Japanese JCL Team Occhio team. Those 3 looking really strong yesterday, and what proved to be a really hard finish as well. Just the kind of gradient where you can sprint flat out, but only just. Alessandro Covi reminding us just how good he is. We'll come back to him in a little bit because I've been doing some digging and going back to find out why he hasn't won so much. First of all, though, let's have a look at where we are. We are in Pescara province on the eastern side of Italy, just east of Rome, effectively, on the Adriatic coastline. We ride away from that coast and up into the Apennines and then have a valley road taking us all the way northward before a really sneaky descent. More snaky, twisty, windy roads as well to take us over more hills today. It's considerably hillier than yesterday, and longer climbs too. The first one is a first category climb, and then we have 2 more that reach a similar height as well, about 1,020 metres, 1,030 metres above sea level. Then the long, very gradual descent. We've effectively got about 40 kilometres net downhill to bring us to an uphill finale where you see the finish in Penne. It is 5 kilometres uphill, that final climb. There's the first cat they've been over already. Then that second category mountain climb with the sprint point in Ofena, with those bonus sprint points available there. And then that ramp to the finish, 5k, average gradient of 5%, but it goes to just about 10% in places. So today's finale could be similar to yesterday, but a longer one too. This is Tocco de Casauria. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a bit, but beautiful hilltop town that was the start of today's second stage of 4 in the Giro d'Abruzzo. I'm going to use the race guidebook in a little while, once we see the race up and running, because I know there won't be enough time here to give it its full credit. A bit of historical and culinary flavour. Looking like the weather's set all week, actually, to be really ideal racing conditions. Let's not forget, this is all part of the build-up to the Giro d'Italia. You can see plenty of Giro d'Italia livery around as well, because it's the same organisers, RCS. Let me look there at Marco Brenner. And this is the Petrolite team, the Mexican team that are here. If you weren't with us yesterday, it's a fascinating mishmash, this. There is our leader, Alessandro Covi, in that blue-green leader's jersey. This is the Monzon Incolor Hub team, the Romanian team with a very multinational makeup. Very gingerly coming down the steps. VEF Group Bardiani CSF. That was Filippo Fiorelli wearing the points jersey in second place. Shaking hands with Alessandro Covi. Will he be locking horns with Alessandro Covi? The conversations between the riders just before the start. I thought VF Group Bardiani CSF were particularly impressive yesterday.
Very good start of Il Giro d'Abruzzo for you. Yeah, it's been nice. It's always challenging, these roads around here, up and down all day. So, and with the style of racing here, it's quite aggressive. You never know what moves can make it to the line. So we have to be attentive every day here. So it makes it difficult, but we got off to a good start yesterday. What kind of race do you expect today? I think something similar to yesterday, but obviously there's a bit more difficult climbs out there that potentially can make some selections a little bit earlier. And then if teams are running out of numbers towards the final, you can find it quite aggressive before the final climb even starts.
George, you made the podium of this race 1 year ago. Did you come back for winning?
Yeah, I mean, of course we try, but it's always hard. And this year the course is a little bit more complicated. Last year we had like a really big climb, and it was more about the legs. This year it's more tactical, I would say. Like yesterday you saw big groups going away, and we were quite lucky that we could close that. And you know, teams that have numbers to play with, they have a good advantage here. And I think, yeah, I mean, today's going to be another really complicated day. Tomorrow's maybe a little bit harder, but yeah, I mean, we'll definitely try and win. I mean, it's of course, but you know, do what we can.
It looks harder today. At least the climb is longer. Is it better for you?
Yeah, I think it's better for me, also for my teammate Matisse. Yeah, I think it can go both ways today. It can be a controlled day towards the last climb, but can also start getting super chaotic before with some attacks. But we see how it goes. I think we prepare for both things. Yeah, but I hope I will play for the win today.
Do you see you guys, very young riders, beating UAE Team Emirates at El Giro d'Abruzzo?
It's gonna be difficult, but I don't think it's impossible.
Are you in a defending position today?
Yeah, we see how is the race. We have a strong team, and if we arrive together, I try again to do the sprint.
Do you expect a finale that will be harder?
Yeah, every day is hard, and we see. I think maybe they attack. So we have just to control this attack or be inside, and after, if we arrive together, I try.
The thoughts of some of the protagonists there, including the man who will defend that bluey-green jersey. There he is, Alessandro Covi in the middle. The Mountains jersey there on the left, the blue jersey, being worn by Matteo Zerlo, who won the solitary 5 points yesterday. And then that points jersey, the pinky purple jersey in the middle, which is worn by Filippo Fiorelli, even though Alessandro Covi is leading that classification. Best young rider there on the right, the white jersey with the red shorts there, is Alessandro Fancellu, who was third yesterday, the Italian rider for the Japanese team. He is 24 years of age, so I don't know if I'd necessarily call him super young. I think most of the viewers know how I feel about that. I always feel the best young rider should be under 23, particularly nowadays, but in this race it is under 25. At the age of 24, Alessandro Fancellu, despite the fact that he's ridden for 3 different professional teams already in his career, is considered a young rider. I'll leave that one to you lot to debate. I've raised it enough times. I try not to keep going on over it this week. These are the early stages, and once again today, a really difficult battle to get the breakaway going. VF Group Bardiani CSF were up for it, but maybe at the distaste of some of the continental teams, the third division teams who really wanted to have time to play with. They didn't get their way. That was our first category climb of this race. There's only 3 of them in the race, and it was Samuele Zoccorato of Polti, Visit Malta, leading over the top, ahead of Simone Pitelli of Entomarché Wanty. They had 2 third division team riders chasing, Federico Guzzo of SC Padovani and Filip Kruzinski, the Polish rider for Biese Carrera. Ahead of that was there the peloton. Not massive gaps between them, 30 seconds effectively between each of those little groups. And this lot, and I can tell you that on the descent fairly quickly, Kruzinski and Guzzo were round back in. And I think when we're about to join pictures, we should still see Samuele Zoccorato and Simone Pitelli still out front by themselves. Understandably, Zoccorato is now leading in the King of the Mountains classification because the difference between first and second category climbs is enormous. Absolutely enormous. There are 5 points when you go over the top of a second category climb first. There are 20 points when you go over a first cat climb first, which basically means that poor old Matteo Zerlo, he did try to get into a breakaway on the climb of the Asciano, which was our first category climb, but they got hoovered up before the top, and over the top of them went Zoccorato and Kelly. So he tried to defend that jersey, but the difference in points is so massive between first and second cat climbs. So these are live pictures with 65k to go. Our 2 leaders out front, the same 2 who went over that King of the Mountains point, that first category climb in Forcella di Asciano, are still clear. And they are Simone Pitelli, who we're looking at here, of Montemarchi-Wanty, one of the 2 world teams in this race. And then a second division team rider, and that is Samuele Zoccorato of Holti Visit Malta. They have 1 minute 32, which means that the virtual leader on the road is Simone Pitelli, which is possibly why he's on the front at this point. And they are on yet another of these, 3 big ascents today. The chasing, understandably, is being led by UAE Team Emirates, as it is live as we look at them right now. Exactly as you might expect. It looks like Big Julius Johansson on the front, the Danish team pursuits specialist, now being used as big sledgehammer by UAE Team Emirates fairly regularly too as well. Just as it was yesterday, my name is Jez Cox, and I'm once again joined by Michael Hutchinson. Hey Hutch.
Hello Jez.
Hello. We enjoyed yesterday, didn't we? And
it was
there were
fun.
quite a few.
All action.
It was all action, and I think actually in a way, listening to those interviews there highlighted what I think I enjoyed about it. There was a lot of talk about difficult to control, unpredictable, let's see what happens. And I think that might be something to do with the terrain, but also maybe to do with the mix of teams we've got here.
Yeah, I think you're right. As we said yesterday, we've got all the way from sort of World Tour down to sort of third division pro teams. And teams that are not really all that different in a lot of respects from club teams. So there's an enormous spread of ability, an enormous spread of what different riders and different teams want to get out of the race. Obviously, we've got riders at the top end riding for GC. We've got teams further down who are almost, is it patronising to say here for the experience? But I think there are some riders here who are going to learn a lot in this race and quite possibly suffer quite a lot. Even on that first climb, there were riders being dropped with 95 kilometres left of the stage. So some riders were having a long ride home, and we had a huge big spread yesterday. We talk about it being a sort of an uphill bunch sprint, but there were riders losing kind of 10-15 minutes.
Yep, it is unfortunately for those maybe who are having their first stint here in the professional ranks, of which there are many. There's lots of teenagers in this race. We've got the likes of, most of the Israel Premier Tech Academy team are newbies, quite a few of them riding their first pro race at this level, and the same in other teams as well. Plenty of teenagers here gaining experience, and there is unfortunately for them, and certainly for any of the, what shall we say, a thicker set, more flat-loving riders in this peloton, there ain't much to look forward to, because we've got now, I mean, yesterday was the easier day, and it looked absolutely brutal, not least as you said, Hutch, in that finale, but today, tomorrow, and the following day, it's all knocking around 2,700 on average metres of elevation, and it's just constant,
it's all up,
isn't it?
It's all done, yeah. It just never stops, and it's kind of those heavy roads. It's a very, very beautiful part of Italy, but it's not the easiest place to ride a bike.
Probably the flattest bit, in fact, I can tell you, the flattest bit of this stage today we've just had. It was the valley road between the Furcella di Acciano and the Vallico di San Leonardo, which we are climbing now. It was a valley road surrounded by mountains, of course, so you always know what's coming next. And it's come. Here it is. Not too far from the top.
I think we're over and onto the descent.
You are.
Here. Yeah.
Sorry, we are.
There's a plateau. There's a plateau across the top that you were. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Quite
You're
long,
right.
quite winding descent, reasonably wide road, decent visibility. But we saw yesterday there are, there's kind of gravel in around the edges of the road. There's some not terrific surfaces. You need to keep your wits about you.
Just to say thank you to. Yesterday. Yeah, there weren't there? We don't need any more of that, particularly on corners like this. And this is where it gets remarkably intestinal, this stage, because it is constantly twisty and windy on the descents and on the climbs yet to come. So lots of technical sorting out for riders to make sure they can handle their bikes properly, but also opportunities for tactical stuff to go on, and perhaps not always so much opportunity to see where riders are ahead of you as you're taking these. There's going to be lots of descents like this coming up in this race. It's just the way the roads are laid in this part of the world, but it makes it particularly exciting, and dare I say it, Hutch, looking at it, it does look, and I was thinking this yesterday, an absolutely lovely place to come and ride your bike.
Oh, it looks gorgeous. It's a tiring place to ride your bike, but it does look absolutely sensational.
Yeah, I need some summer. I haven't managed to get away anywhere yet this year, and I'm really looking at this as like, right, okay, England's
in that
lovely,
case,
but I'm done
the
with it.
Abruzzo Tourist Board will feel their job is done.
Yes. Well, it does it
that's
without us
gorgeous.
saying anything. We don't have to say anything, do we? Just look at that.
This is the
Stunning.
kind of the highest point of the Apennines. This is Pope John Paul II used to come skiing in this part of the world in secret.
In secret, and you've just gone and told
Secret.
everyone. Well, actually,
But he
probably
has been dead for 20
Wow,
years.
well, there
so
is
we're
that.
probably
Yeah.
safe enough.
Yeah.
But
Well,
he
you
used to come here. He was, the outdoors Pope. He used to come sort of trekking and skiing and things like that in
Fantastic.
secret, which I think is sort of brilliant. I saw, to be fair, I saw a picture of him skiing in a black ski suit, and I thought, to be fair, if I saw somebody skiing in a black ski suit, it wouldn't cross my mind that it was the Pope.
No, but you might think, oh, what are you hiding?
You're more suspicious than me. But I mean, in some ways, you could come here. The Pope could come here and ski in secret because it's it's odd. It doesn't look remote on a map. It's just sort of across Italy from Rome, but it's quite sparsely populated and not a tourist centre. And yet it looks like this. It's gorgeous.
Let's have a little concentrate on these two in the breakaway while they're still there with their gap, because they might be riding away to the finish. As I said yesterday, I've got to talk about breaks with the assumption that they could get to the finish and win the race as a result. It wouldn't be the first time and it won't be the last. But at the moment, Samuele Zoccorato appears to have the edge a little bit on Simone Pitelli in the descending. Zoccorato sensibly, I think, by the looks of it, just waiting for him to get back on. The entrance suggests it was equipped with a retractable ladder, aren't it? Dave, the detail we're getting on our screen graphics here, fascinating.
That sounds like
There you
an Irish round tower. An Irish round tower was a sort of fortification with a door 12 or 13 feet off the ground and a ladder that the monks would pull up after them. So it sounds like a similar piece of technology.
Look at the trails there as well. As a trail running addict, in fact, the mountain bikers would enjoy that too. It looks particularly good, but for a trail run, oh my gosh, it looks stunning. I must admit, the Apennines are not somewhere I've explored other than just touching the edges of them on a road bike. But looking at this now, I'd much rather have the dusty stuff underneath my feet, and that's making me feel a little bit ill, actually. That's quite a shot, isn't it? What a spot. Did you say highest point of the Apennines where we are now?
Yeah, it is.
Right?
This sort of stretch contains the highest mountains in Italy, south of the Alps.
Well, the very highest point is the Gran Sasso d'Italia, where, of course, the Giro d'Italia had a stage finish 2 years ago. I'll come back to that during the course of the week. But we finish at Isola del Gran Sasso on, I nearly said Sunday. It's always Sunday we finish the stage races. Friday, thank you. So the island of the big rock, the giant rock. So not quite the same height, but still another hilly stage, although randomly the flattest finale on Friday. So I don't know whether any of the sprinters, of which there aren't many, might be licking their lips.
Everything is 3 uphill finishes until we get to that stage on Friday. I mean, yesterday was sort of the stage that people had earmarked for the sprint. I remember George Bennett in his post-race interview saying that they were assuming and planning for a bunch sprint. And I think slightly surprised they didn't get it, but as we saw yesterday, UAE really kind of lit the race up somewhere around about the intermediate sprint. They really picked it up and made life very, very hard for everybody.
It's a shame to see. One of our teenagers, aforementioned teenagers, is an abandon from the race. Noé Melot, the Frenchman, 19 years of age for Tudor Pro Cycling Team. And always a shame to see any rider having to abandon. There might be a crash, I don't know what's happened there, but having to abandon on only, halfway through, as we are now, the second stage of 4-stage race. It's always nice to see young riders get through a stage race of this length to gain all that experience, but I'm sure they'll be back for more. Thankfully, not too many abandons that I've spotted just yet, but we will keep an eye on that. One thing I did say that I would update people on is I'm doing a bit of digging on, why Alessandro. I was thinking about scratching my head, thinking I remember the early career of Alessandro Covi, particularly him in 2022, where he looked set to be the next Mark Hirschi, effectively, in terms of his physical capacity, his capability to sprint uphill and read a race well. I didn't realise quite how many physical issues he's had since then. I didn't realise that he'd had Epstein-Barr virus, the same condition that had afflicted Mark Cavendish for quite a long time as well. in 2023, so the year after that breakout year in 22, when he won a Giro stage and the Vuelta a Murcia as well, which was the day when he accidentally had to wear odd-coloured shoes, the black and white shoes, which is why he still does it now. He won on that day and then decided to carry on wearing one black, one white shoe. He'd also had all sorts of issues with getting ill and had to have surgery on his nasal septum to correct him. Just tracking back to the beginning of this season as well, he started the season in fine flying form in Mallorca, but then crashed at the Trofeo Palma, injuring his knee, and had to take time out for that as well. It does look like he's back to his very best, because he looked absolutely brilliant yesterday. I did notice, and I try not to mention this too often when referring to any riders, amateur, professional or what have you, Hutch, but I did notice he's looking extremely lean yesterday. Looked like he's lost weight from early days of his career. You know, the lightest I've seen him looking. And that can mean all sorts of things, of course. It could just be natural progression of a rider's career and what have you. But it was notable yesterday. I just wondered whether, you know, we'll see a change in him as a rider as a result of that. I have to say, I did see exactly the same thing in the man we've seen on the front. His teammate, Julius Johansson, the Dane. Here he is, descending just about legally as he hangs on to the tops of the bars. Similar with him. Not least since he joined UAE Team Emirates, just seems to have got, you know, even leaner and lighter looking, shall we say, because he's a big guy as well. So could well be something to do with nutrition and preparation at UAE Team Emirates. I don't know. I might be just drawing assumptions there. I normally, Hutch, try and steer clear of mentioning what a rider looks like in terms of, you know, weight and what have you, for obvious reasons, but I did notice it, and he seems to be flying. Whether the two are linked in any way, I don't know.
It's historically been kind of a problem in the sport, but it also boils down to kind of, if you want to win an uphill sprint, it's about watts per kilo. What is good is that maybe probably over most of the term of my career, we got more and more accepting of riders just being slightly heavier and slightly healthier. The standard instruction way back when people were going over to sort of ride for French and Belgian teams in the 1980s used to be lose 5 kilos, never attack into a headwind. That was it. that was the entire coaching and tactical advice. And friends like Sean Yates talking about lining up to collect their kit, and the person in front of you, they'd get a bag of kit, lose 5 kilos, never attack into a headwind. The next person would get their kit and lose 5 kilos, never attack into a headwind. And I think we've got better at that. And good sort of intelligent nutrition at some of the bigger teams means you can keep riders lean while also keeping them in an anabolic state, so that they're continuing to kind of continue and build muscle. But it's not easy to do, and it's quite dangerous to try and do it on your own in some ways.
This is where the recent quite open nature of Jonas Abramson, the Uno X rider, who's talked extensively about this, about spending the early part of his career desperately trying to cut weight all the time, and then decided to allow his body to settle where it wants to be. He then put the kilos back on, and now seemingly only attacks into a headwind. He's an absolute beast, Abramson. And of course famously spoke about it all before taking the King of the Mountains jersey at the Tour de France. I mean, he is just one example, but it's always good to hear riders as well talking about finding, what's that word, stasis, a comfortable point for their body where it operates healthily and fully and recovers properly as well. Anyway, regardless of that, I'm not obviously making any points about Alessandro Covi's state in relation to his weight. It was just something I noticed yesterday.
He looked great on that final climb.
Oh, he really did, didn't he? He looked brilliant. Now, these two out front, we're looking at Samuele Zocorato here, the 27-year-old from Campo San Piero in the north of Italy. Another former Colpack Balan rider. I keep talking about the quality that's come out of that team over the years, and a lot of their alumni are in this race in bigger teams now as well. He spent 4 years at VF Group Bardiani CSF and is now in his first season with Polti. This is one of the Petrolike team riders. Filippo Dauto got a problem. Petrolite, the Mexican team, based in Italy, and opting not for the winder that we were discussing, I think, during the Tour of Flanders, Hutch, wasn't it? Standard.
Yeah, well, Tour of Flanders and Roubaix, a lot of teams leaving the winder on, but that was very quickly and calmly done.
Yeah.
I suppose he's on the descent, he's in the car, so he's not going to have any trouble. Shouldn't have any trouble anyway.
I started to wonder whether we would see a day today where this race looked difficult to control for the likes of UAE Team Emirates, but I guess if anyone's going to do it, having got the win yesterday, it would be them. Seems to be under control at the moment, 43 seconds. I wondered yesterday, Hutch, whether the break in the end, particularly that dangerous group, was actually brought back too soon. But let's not forget, and this is crucial, actually, do you know what, I'm speaking too late now, because I was going to say we have an intermediate sprint point with 3, 2 and 1, but I don't think they'll catch them by then, because it's in,
no,
what is it, 2K's time. I wonder if they've been thinking about that, though.
Not sure. Certainly there were riders looking for the intermediate sprint time bonuses yesterday. I think if UAE wanted to catch them in time for that, they could probably have done it.
Well, there's 1 second available now, exactly the same as we had yesterday when we had 2 riders out front. I'm very surprised that the early breakaways so far have been so measly in this race. We did originally have 8 riders break away today, but they were quickly brought back on that first big climb. But same situation as yesterday, just 2 riders out front, but both from bigger teams, that's for sure.
Yeah, the bigger teams seem to be quite keen, particularly UAE, seem quite keen to control this. I mean, Alessandro Covi at the finish yesterday said they were still riding for Pablo Torres as their GC plan. Absolutely convinced he's telling the truth about that. But if that's the plan, Pablo Torres is 21 seconds down at the minute. He was second in Tour de l'Avenir and Baby Gira last year, wasn't he? If I recall correctly. So
yes.
They might be quite keen to try to get him, give him the experience of trying to win this kind of nice little 4-day stage race, which will play to his strengths quite well. So I suspect that is what they're doing.
We're actually we're about a third of the way up a really long 17-kilometre climb as well. Breakaway are anyway.
4 or 5%. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not particularly steep. It is into I think it's into a headwind, if I remember. Yeah, they've got a headwind up it, which is, if anything, which is clearly going to keep. It's going to make life a bit hard for the break. It's also going to keep the bunch together.
It is at the top, the Forca di Penne, overlooking Penne, where we finish, of course. From there, we continue heading back in the direction of the Adriatic Sea. I think we're going to see an interesting battle here for the 1 second between this lot. They might as well, Hutch, of an afternoon on a Wednesday. It's going to happen, isn't it? Because we saw it yesterday. It was David de la Cruz who got the 1 second yesterday, and the fight for that at the Ripper Tietina, where we had a bit of a ripper of a sprint, was all over 1 second. It's going to happen again. I know it. Of course it is.
About 3 minutes away from it, so we're going to find out if you're right quite shortly. I'm sure you are, because it's. Yesterday we were talking about this being the kind of race that might get decided on the time bonuses, and already, if you look at the GC, I'm not convinced that it's already begun to spread out. Yesterday was a harder stage, I think, than we were expecting, and today's harder, and tomorrow's harder again. So it might and it might not, but you would still take a second if you could get it.
No, absolutely. I mean, George Bennett is a good illustration there. George Bennett, last year's third-place finisher, finished 4th yesterday, and he's already 10 seconds down on the general classification. Admittedly, that's because of the time bonuses. At all the finishes, there are 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds available for the first 3 finishers. So Covey taking that yesterday. And then, of course, George Bennett leads a big group, a massive group of riders who are on those 10 seconds down. But there were some big gaps behind them yesterday. Quite a lot of third division team riders losing quite big time yesterday, but surviving to make the most of this race. We are very close now, about 700-800 metres to the intermediate sprint point. Once again, it's one that feels a lot more like a King of the Mountains point than an intermediate. But that's what it is. And that's really the nature of this race. Seemingly the perfect warm-up to the Giro d'Italia. And my suspicion, Hutch, is as this race grows in prominence again, it is this year a UCI .1 race. We're covering it here at the Home of Cycling. Here's my suspicion. Within 2 years, it will be a Pro Series race, so second division, and more of the big teams will be coming as part of their Giro d'Italia warm-up. It's just, the calendar adjusting to having a new race here. And it makes sense because there aren't any other men's professional stage races on this week. It's in the perfect slot.
It's a nice slot, and of course it's organised by the Giro. So if you want a wild card entry to the Giro d'Italia, you could come here and ingratiate yourself ever so slightly.
Yeah, even if that's for next year, it's exactly right in the shop window in front of Mauro Vegni, the Giro d'Italia race director, who is of course the race director of this race too. Right,
and it's a nice length of race, kind of I was saying yesterday, a 4-day stage race is a nice race to sort of drop into a training block if you want to come and use it for that as well.
We are climbing into Ofena. According to the graphic, there are 200 metres to go to the intermediate sprint point. Simone Pitelli is the best placed of these two. He's just had a little look round at Samuele Zoccarato, so I wonder whether they've had conversation. It looks like it's going to be... Now, today I think it is Damien Howson. Or is it? No, sorry, I confused Howson and De La Cruz yesterday. Howson's a bit more bearded. They're both tall. This is Damien Howson, I'm pretty certain. It might be that he's trying to take seconds away from others, but I do believe I called De La Cruz Howson yesterday.
Well, he's only 10 seconds down in GC, so it is Damien Howson. I wasn't sure it was. I thought Damien Howson had a considerably better beard.
He did appear to in the interview before the stage, so unless he trimmed it between the interview and the start. Now, that is Howson. Howson's one of the... Well, he's the tallest rider at Q36.5. Okay. Here's hoping the graphics people aren't listening to us and going by it. Heaven forbid that. It is definitely...
I think you're right.
The Australian. Yeah. And it looks like maybe Stevie Williams coming after him. There's one of the Israel Premier Tech riders, and if it is Stevie Williams, that's a good sign. It is Stevie Williams, you know. It is, and he's been led out by one of his teammates. So Williams looking a lot better today. Now that is interesting, Hutch.
Well, one of his missions is just to make sure that that second doesn't go to Damien Howson on behalf of George Bennett.
Well, that's completely changed my opinion of how Stevie Williams is going this week. He's ripped across that very impressively. I mean, we know how quick Stevie Williams is on his game anyway, but he's had a lot of time out since coming back from Australia with a knee problem. That looks a lot more sprightly, doesn't it?
He pulled the plug very early yesterday, and I wonder if maybe that was just part of the plan. Was he was kind of just wanted to feel his way back in slightly and didn't want to ride the finale, possibly.
Yeah, that's what I meant, Hutch. I mean, when I saw him yesterday, I don't know. It's a very nuanced thing, that, isn't it? The difference between a rider who's pulling the pin deliberately and a rider who's getting dropped. We only saw him briefly, but I read it as getting, or not getting, dropping off and not looking great.
I read it as getting straightforwardly dropped, but maybe that
all right, yeah. I was trying to be kind about it, but I read it the same way.
We're admitting we're possibly wrong, because that didn't look like a rider who was doing a lot of getting dropped there, did it?
No, he looked very much the Stevie Williams that we know. Of course, he's a rider who's dealt with so much injury and problem, particularly knee problems as well in his career. He is, I think I'm probably safe in saying, a relatively brittle rider, quite easily injured but unmistakably brilliant when he's in great form as well. And his real thing is hilly 4 to 6 day stage races. He's absolutely deadly, which is why he won the Tour Down Under last year and the Tour of Britain, to illustrate the two. But then, as we know, he also won Flèche Wallonne last year. Brilliant season.
It's got a hill too, to be fair.
Just a little bit, just a little bit at the finish. This is the back. Julius Johansson been doing a lot of that chasing. He sits up. Will drift in somewhere down in another group unless he gets back on after this descent, which is quite possible because the descents in this race are mighty long. He's a beast, Johansson, isn't he? I'm sure you'll have come across him, Hutch, in a team pursuing mould over the years. He was part of Dan Bigham's Danish team that he was looking after.
No, as a team pursuiter, yes, an animal, an absolute animal.
Yeah.
I mean, the Danish team pursuit squad was kind of fascinating because they kind of had a men's team pursuit squad and not very much else because they put all their resources into that. It was an interesting exercise in how you can focus your resources in an Olympic or a national team. But a long way from this.
Oh yeah, no, but he seems to be. They picked him up He did a year. He was with Entourage Wanty for a while, doing what he does for UAE. You know, a lot of pace setting on the front, and then dropped out that and spent a year at third division level racing for Sabgol Anicolor, Portuguese team, and then has been brought back in to the world's #1 team, back into UAE Team Emirates, because they know. And I read somewhere, I can't think where now as well, they'd obviously done their testing with him, and you know, effectively knew that he would be an ideal engine workhorse, wanted to back it up with the numbers, saw the numbers and went, yeah, we'll be having you. There's no great surprise. He is, as you say, an absolute beast as well. Now, hello. This is a little group now. Let me looking down my notes about Julius Johansson. These guys are going off the front. Or are they? Where are they at the moment? That four we've just seen. I've just looked up and seen them. Sorry, they're coming back in.
We seem to cut to them. I agree. They look like they're off the front.
No, they're not. Hang on a minute. And this looks like Louis Meintjes. Get back on top of this. Sjoerd Baks is on the front. And the tall Dutchman for Q36.5. Yeah, they'd gone off the front, those four, but are, I think, now realising they're about to be caught and just sitting up a little bit. Look at that long, open, exposed road. They're not going to exactly be out of sight, are they? But
it's got a hint of Mont Ventoux about it, doesn't it?
It has, hasn't it? Desolate, exposed. You mentioned the wind, Hutch. I'm just going to go to my Velo Viewer app and just see which way that suggests it's pushing and how hard.
Well, this is
headwind. Yeah, it is a headwind. Yeah, it's basically a headwind all the way to the finish now. A slight cross headwind. Not too much though, about 8 to 9 kilometres per hour according to Velo Viewer. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a little bit of local flavour while we see them settling into this climb. Tell you a little bit about where we are going as well. We've heard a bit about where we were. The finish is in Penne, as I say, and I'm going to read you from the guidebook now. Let me know if something drastic happens, Hutch, because I'm going to be reading from the guidebook. Because I know it's very well written and I enjoy it as we're watching a few riders going out the back. Penne. It lies between the valleys of the Tavo and Fino rivers, halfway between the Adriatic Sea and the Gran Sasso, the aforementioned Gran Sasso d'Italia that we mentioned earlier. The imposing Porta San Francesco, made from traditional red bricks that are the hallmark of the town's architecture, is the main entrance to the old town. A large statue of St. Francis of Assisi testifies to Penne's close ties with that saint. Main sites also include the cathedral, which is dedicated to St. Maximus and dating from before the year 1000. I'm never quite sure how to say that, but that is correct, I think. Located on the Colle Sacro and the church of San Domenico, with its stucco decorations and its wonderful polychrome marble altar, the 18th century Palazzo Castiglione stands on the Piazza Duomo. The ideal destination for nature lovers is Lake Penne, located within the Lago di Penne Nature Reserve. Food-wise, Trippa alla Pennese is a tasty tripe soup. Now, tasty and tripe, yeah, in my mind, my culinary mind, are two words that do not go together. But still, a tasty tripe soup with parsley, bay leaves, mint, prepare for long list, marjoram and chili peppers, served hot with grated pecorino or Parmesan cheese. It's the king of local cuisine, along with arancini and pecora alla Calara, which is Abruzzo's traditional shepherd's recipe, a hearty and tasty mutton stew. If it's lunch where you're watching, lunchtime, I hope I haven't just made you hungry, but that sounded rather nice. Save for the, what was it? The tripe soup.
Tripe soup.
I'll hold on the tripe soup, please. There we go. A bit of local flavour of Penne in Pescara, the direction in which we're riding. It is interesting, Hutch, that it is now Tudor Pro Cycling who get involved in the chase and start to pick up the pace. Thinking about Marco Brenner, I guess.
In fifth on GC, 10 seconds down, riding fourth or fifth wheel behind a couple of Pulte Visit Malta riders. So that's why they're up there. I'm slightly surprised to see UAE disappear at quite this point. I mean, I guess they've got the break fairly comprehensively under control.
Yeah, Samuele Zoccorato here is pushing on. Simone Pitelli, who was the best placed in the GC virtual leader on the road, has now definitely sat up, I think, because he's necking a gel and looks fairly casual back there. Their gap, well, you can see 49 seconds, or maybe he's not looking. Maybe the gap is... Does he look like he's pressing on, Hutch? It looks like he's done to me.
Hard to say.
Well, we'll see, I guess.
We'll see soon enough.
Either way, Samuele Zoccorato is striking out for home with 44k to go. And the roads continue really much like this.
They're beginning to stack up some points in the King of the Mountains if he can get over this as well, because that'll take him to 25 points, which will actually give him a little bit of a lead.
Well, a very good lead, dare I say it, Hutch. And I think, I touched on this yesterday, but I'll definitely mention it today because it's important. Well, I'm going to say it. I'm going to state it, I think, as a fact. It's not just my opinion. The gap between first and second, there are only two categories to climb in this race, and the gap between first and second is too big. It's 5
weird,
for a second category
points,
and 20. I mean, it's 15 exactly. So after today, there are only 2 more first category climbs to come, and one of them is the finish tomorrow. So if we discount that because it's a finish, nobody will be going for the mountains points there. We know that they're going for the finish of the stage. There is therefore one more first category stage. Climb, in tomorrow's stage. So I just think it doesn't make the King of the Mountains competition that interesting, because I can see it being won by the person who wins tomorrow's Queen stage anyway. Nobody wants that. I said it yesterday, surely. I defy anyone to tell me they don't want the jerseys. Nobody wants the jersey to be won by someone who didn't intend to win it, do they? You want somebody going for the jersey and winning it as a result of hard work or setting out to try and get it. I do anyway. I don't know what you think. I'm a bit romantic.
Zoccorato could fit. It depends a little. Also, there's points at the end of the day. If he is first over the next one, he's going to have 25 points. He's going to be leading by nearly 11 points. So if he picks up a few more points somewhere along the way, he's got a very good chance of winning it.
He has. Yes, he has. So he's set about it exactly the right way. And I think that's what surprised me, that there weren't more riders that went over there. Maybe that's what Federico Guzzo and Philippe Gruzinski were thinking when they were chasing. I'm sure it was when they were chasing Pitelli and Zoccorato. Worth me pointing out, there were originally a break of 6 who started the Forcella di Acciano, that first category climb, together. It included Zerlo, the wearer of the King of the Mountains jersey today. And also in that break of 6 with him, interestingly enough, were former junior and under-23 cyclocross superstar Filippo Agostinaccio, and the cross fans will know that name very well. He's one of the best up-and-coming cyclocross riders of his generation, the Italian. He's riding for BSC Carrera Premac. He was in that group of 6, as was the young Brit Matthew Kingston as well, who's from Burton-on-Trent in the Midlands. I guess we'd say Burton-on-Trent, although it's north of the Midlands. He was in that breakaway too, of 6 of them, but they were hoovered up before we got to the top. And it does certainly look like Samuele Zoccorato, who won those 20 points, is on a really good day today. He persists out front by himself.
He's pulled a little bit back out again as well.
Yeah, 103, getting beyond the minute mark again.
I still wouldn't want to bet my house on him for the finish today, but, you know, stranger things have happened. The group is beginning to thin out a little bit. We just had this kind of consistent dribble out the back all day, you know, from... We started, we had an uphill start with a tailwind, which is absolute hell on earth if you're a bike rider, and we have had people just popping out the back more or less from the first kilometre. We might lose a few to the time cut today.
This looks like Joel Suter. He's one of 3 Swiss riders this week in that Swiss team, Tudor Pro Cycling. Well, it's definitely not Marco Brenner we're looking at, but there is Marco Brenner in the middle in that German champions skin suit. he wears one of those proper aero suits as well, almost track-style aero suits, I've noticed, Hutch. And it's... you might understand the aerodynamics of this. You know when you see track riders have an extremely low-cut neckline on their skin suit? There must be some thinking behind that, and Brenner seems to wear what looks to me like hyper aero skin suit. It's almost bearing all of his chest. It's so low because it's so tight. It looks like it's XXXXS. When we saw him interviewed at the start, you know, it helped maybe that he wears a chain round his neck, but you can see most of his chest. And to me, I don't know if the skin suit and the material is supposed to be so aerodynamic. What's that all about? You know what I'm talking about, right? Where you've got...
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's really, if you want to get the fit to work, you have to do it that way. It's very hard to cut the suit so that you can have the tension you want in the fabric with kind of a neck that comes all the way to the top. It also means riders don't, on a hot race like this, it also stops riders unzipping the first sort of 20, 30 millimetres of the zip at the top, and thereby throwing away an awful lot of the aero advantage. But it's got to do with making the fit of the suit work more than just the aerodynamics per se.
Just watching Simone Pitelli coming back in, sensibly eating before he's caught as well from the original breakaway of 2, as they were. And for those of you who are watching this coverage today and maybe aren't as used to hearing the words of Dr. Michael Hutchinson as I am, you might be wondering why I'm asking him technical details about aerodynamics and stuff. And for those of you who don't know Hutch like I do, you might not be aware that Michael spends a lot of his time in wind tunnels, testing riders and working out aerodynamic strategies and what have you. And part of that stems from his own racing career as one of the top time trialists that's that spent increasing amounts of time learning and learning about... Am I explaining this the right way, Hutch?
Yeah, more or less. No, my career, I was a time trial specialist, which leads towards the nerdy.
Yeah.
And I do quite a lot of wind tunnel testing with athletes now, which I enjoy doing. I've learned an awful lot about windsuit, speed suit fabrics and cuts and where you put the seams and the advantage you can get from that. I was actually thoroughly delighted, in contrast to your good self, I was thoroughly delighted to see Visma Lease bike riders in aero helmets in the Spring Classics. I know that horrified you. I look at it and think, why would you not, if it's 20 or 30 watts easier to wear that, faster to wear that helmet than one with vents in it, why would you not wear the fast one?
Shall I tell you why?
I put that to you, and you say...
Yeah. Well, I think at the time I said, because you look like a nincompoop. I think is that what I said? Someone quoted me.
Yeah, you said something like that. Sometime we should sit down and compare how many national championships we've both won, Jez, and we'll just figure that one out.
That's not a long conversation. But I think, look, I know, look, you are right. I say it on the record, right?
Obviously.
But one day, young Matty Brennan is going to have to sit down on the sofa, look up, and see that picture on the mantelpiece, not the the virtual mantelpiece in those days. It'll probably be like a projected one. It is, I don't know, an AI version, and it ain't going to look good. I know it looks good for all the right reasons right now.
But it will do. Here's the thing, is you look back at photographs of yourself using, kit at the time, and it all looks old-fashioned. Even the stuff that was good then looks old-fashioned. Yeah. And every so often you see a picture of yourself wearing something, and think, oh, that looks quite modern, that looks quite... And it's always the thing. I mean, I didn't invent the long sock, but I was one of the first riders who blossomed forth to have turned up to a bike race in long aero socks. I know everyone was appalled. People still are appalled. But if I look back now to before that, wearing like little short socks, I think, why are you wearing these little short ankle socks? What are you doing? Long socks. Yeah. It's about long socks. So Matthew Brennan will be delighted when he looks back to himself riding as strongly as he did in Paris-Roubaix at the weekend, wearing an aero helmet. I promise you.
Yeah. I'm only being silly. I know at the end of the day that it makes a difference for performance. That's why it's done, regardless of what it looks like. We won't even go near the Giro aero helmets, the Jumbo Visma aero. We won't even go there because that's a whole different conversation. That's nincompoopery on a completely different level.
I think they're really cool, but I would concede they do look a little odd.
I got it out of him.
I'm also, well, the other thing about that is I'm not convinced that in 10 years' time everyone's going to wear helmets like that. I am pretty convinced that everyone's going to wear aero helmets on the road, like Matty Brandon at the weekend. But
that's fascinating. I find the swing of different takes on aerodynamics fascinating as well. There we were just a short while ago. That's the next GPM climb. King of the Mountains point, sorry, while we're waffling about other things. He has taken the next 5 points, because that was a second category climb. Big old climb for a second category climb. But Samuele Zoccarato now has 25 points. He's a very clear leader in that King of the Mountains competition. We'll see him on the podium later, pulling on that blue King of the Mountains jersey.
Did notice Matteo Zerlo was back at the current wearer of that jersey was back at the front of the bunch. I'd sort of seen him dangling off the back in a slightly precarious position. Here we go, a little bit of action.
Yeah, well, it is the blue jersey himself. This is Matteo Zerlo, who does fancy, what would he get? 3 points.
Yeah,
I think, is that right?
Points. Yes,
yeah.
That's right.
Did Zerlo get them? Looking down, that's not the blue jersey, or is it? Oh, I need to see that shot a little bit closer.
Either of them with the blue jersey there. They're both BH, MBH.
Yes, MBH Bank riders. They seem to be happy with that one as well. Zerlo was going for that. I'm pretty certain we saw Zerlo going off the front. But
he was at the front. Yeah. When he was at the front, he looked like he was going to go for it. I'm not quite sure why MBH is so keen to take the points.
Very keen indeed, those two MBH Bank Balan riders.
Was it Bracalente who scored 3 points in the King of the Mountains yesterday?
It was.
So he will have picked up another 3 to get himself to 6 points, which isn't getting himself too near the top of the classification, but it's for that team it's probably something.
Yeah. So using his teammate wisely, and that's why that was what I was noticing. The blue jersey there is going after him, Zerlo.
Didn't get there.
No. Nice move by them. It's always nice to see a teammate leading out another teammate into a King of the Mountains point. This is what we want. We want to see jersey classifications that are really fought for. And in this race, so far, it seems to be that they're up for this, which is good. Despite me chastising the organisers, I guess, for having such a big gap between first and second.
I think it's a shame there aren't more points available on that, because that's it's a nice move, but ultimately the reward for it is not enormous.
No. Yeah. Yeah, which the hills kind of are in this race, and they're constant as well, up and down all the time.
But it's also for that team, it's nice to have a target for the day. It's nice to sort of set out and say, right, we're going to try and achieve this, we're going to try and achieve that, set yourself sort of intermediate goals, because clearly they're not pulling up an awful lot of trees in the GC. I don't know where their top place GC rider is, but I'm thinking quite a long way down. So it's quite nice to have a bit of a target. Yeah, that top place rider is Luca Cretti at 14th, 17 seconds down. So actually, I'm doing them an injustice.
We are now coming into some of the snakiest roads on this net downhill to the finish that you're likely to see, particularly in this part of the world. And as soon as I say we cut to a long straight road, but looking at the Velo viewer, it is like the race map. It is like
it's a scribble.
Very long piece of spaghetti that you've thrown up at the ceiling. And it's stuck there and dried, but kind of wizened into a kind of wrinkly. Do you know that old trick, Hutch? I'm talking of Italy and spaghetti.
I'm not looking forward to seeing your kitchen any day soon.
No, I'll tell you, I was taught this when I was I can't think where I was. I was staying in a team house somewhere with some other cyclists many years ago when I was young, which was a very long time ago, and I was taught to get your pasta to its correct, ready, al dente consistency. You cook it, whether it's spaghetti or anything else, as long as it's not too heavyweight, and you take one, the idea would be spaghetti, pull it out of the pan, and you throw it up at the ceiling. If it bounces straight off and comes back down at you, it's not cooked enough yet. If it stays up there and never comes down, it's overcooked and it serves you right. What you want is for it to splat on the ceiling, and over the course of about 10-15 seconds, it slowly unpeels itself and lands itself back in your hand. If that's the case, then it's al dente, it's not overcooked, it's not undercooked.
Well, I
you heard it
that.
here. You should try it. If you get it right, it's not a risk because it comes down, it won't even leave a stain or anything. If it stays up there, it's a reminder of how many times you've overcooked your pasta. There we go.
I really don't have anything to add to that.
No, but it's straight from the Cox Book of Cookery, of which I haven't yet written yet, but I don't think I ever will either.
Yeah, welcome Jonathan Harris-Bass to the coverage.
Yeah, no, I haven't quite got Jono's culinary expertise. That's the limit of my expertise. Anyway, as we watch Zoccarato here on the descent hutch, I thought you might appreciate his Aurum bicycle, and I certainly do, because it's quite a rare thing. Look at the seat stays, it's very old school. Isn't it? There's no drop seat stays here at all. There aren't many frames
go to where the
left
seat
like
stays
that.
are meant to go. Yeah.
Oh, well, we're showing our age a little bit here, I think, because yeah, it is exactly that. It's quite an old school looking machine, and maybe that's because it has actually been designed by Ivan Basso and oh dearie me,
I'm not enjoying this.
no, dearie me, what's wrong with me? Right, I'll come back to that. It is a very traditional looking frame though, this Aurum, isn't it? I think it is anyway.
It is.
Sort of,
I'm just looking at this kind of as a descent and kind of difficult surfaces, and he's trying to eat on the way down, and it just feels a little bit more precarious than you want it to at times.
there is an awful lot more of that yet to come as well, which takes me back to my twisty spaghetti.
It's quite a twisty do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially, overall, it's downhill now until 5 kilometres to go. There's another small climb we've got to go back up, but there's a lot of descending. We've 35 kilometres to go, and all but 4 kilometres of it is downhill.
Do not tell me we're going to get something of a bunch sprint here, are we? I mean, I know the final climb is 5k. It's not
5K
overly steep,
feels
though.
too. I don't know. It's 5.7% average. At the steepest, it's 10%. I think a big bunch sprint seems a bit of a stretch, but I think we're probably going to have quite a big group at the bottom.
Just to confirm, by the way, the name that many of you have been shouting at your television sets was Alberto Contador. Contador and Basso coming together to form that Aurum bike company. Lots of you will, of course, have been shouting that. I've mentioned it, I think, yesterday, and just completely forgot his name. Should really remember that. As you mentioned earlier, Hutch, these shots are a dream for the tourist board around here. Beautiful switchback descent in amongst the villages here. As we ride away from the Apennines, the spine of Italy, the mountains behind us, back in the direction of the sea, although we don't go back to the sea. In fact, this year's race, apart from yesterday's run along the edge of the Adriatic, doesn't touch the sea again until the final stage. We come fairly close to it as we go along the edge of Rosetto degli Abruzzi to the north. The final stage is in the north of Abruzzo, the region in the Teramo province. But we don't really get to see the sea again.
And to be fair, we didn't really see it in the live coverage yesterday anyway.
No, we didn't. No, it was before we came on air. You're absolutely right to point that
This
out.
has been, you know, it's mountain all the way here.
Yeah. There's a couple of the Vini Fantini riders at the back here. We saw them having a go yesterday. Mark Stewart is the last of them, the man from Dundee, as our good friend Brian Smith was pointing out to me yesterday. He sent me a message during live coverage saying, don't forget to mention the guy from Dundee. And of course he was talking about the man we're looking at right now, Mark Stewart. Track superstar. Brought into that team to use all the things which make him such a good track rider on the road too. Fascinating guy who is now 29 years of age, and at one point it looked like maybe he wasn't going to quite make it to the level that he deserves to be at. In a way, that Team Solution Tech Vini Fantini team is probably the perfect team for him, getting lots of opportunity in lots of different kinds of races where he's often able to ride for himself, hopefully too. Could be an important year for him, I think.
Louis Menkes? No. Oh, I'm getting there, yeah. Yeah. Confused by the kit.
This is I don't even know if... I don't think this is technical. I don't think this is a bike issue. I think this may be a leg issue, and it could be cramp, or he's banged his knee on something maybe there, Hutch. Don't often see that, do you? He's unclipped as well. He's on the radio.
That's unusual.
I wonder whether he's banged his knee on the bars. I don't know if you've ever done. You probably have on a time trial bike, haven't you?
That's what it looks like, isn't it? It just looks like
Yeah.
he's whacked the top of his kneecap.
Oof. Not nice. I think it is that.
Sure that stopping achieved an awful lot. He may, of course, have an ongoing knee issue or something that we just don't know about.
Lucky he didn't come off, actually, where it's happened.
He could have stopped his DS, told him to get going again, and he got going again.
But it's the fact that he's on the radio. That is odd, isn't it? I mean, if he banged your knee, what can the... I mean, the team...
I'm genuinely not sure, because he was also shaking his foot in a way that looked more like cramp.
And that was, by the way, Francesco Paravano, the 24-year-old Italian for MGK Vis Costruzioni e Ambiente. In that white kit, like so many of these teams are, white kit with the almost like spray paint mishmash of pink, purple and blue. This is a descender's dream, this stage at the moment, Archie, and it carries on like this for basically the next 25k.
It's the dream of a descender who doesn't mind some slightly dodgy road surfaces.
Yeah. I don't think it's any worse than where I live, though. I think we've got roads just as worse, just as bad, if not worse.
Oh, those 20-kilometre descents you get round St Albans.
Oh yes, yeah, they're everywhere. But despite the speed they're descending, he's still hanging on to that 47-second lead out front, Samuele Zoccarato. One-team man since he left Colpat Balan, that Italian development team. He's been with Bardiani, CSF Faisani ever since, before joining Polti Visit Malta this year. So he had been a one-team man, now finds himself in the green and white, and a fresh start.
We are within a couple of he's within a couple of kilometres of the bottom of the descent, and then he's got a little bit of false flat before it goes down again. So he's going to have to start working again quite shortly.
Yeah, I'm just surprised actually that in amongst this, maybe on this next rise, because they've got, what, 2 more little kickers to come. One imminently, and then another longer climb of, again, about 5 kilometres up into Vestea. And I just wonder whether we might see someone try and detach themselves. I can't believe everyone wants to bring this down to a sort out on that final 5k climb. It just depends. I just can't help but think, Hutch, if he is brought back and they come to the base of the climb up into Penne together, we could see a very similar result to yesterday.
I was going to say there are riders who I think wouldn't be riding for that. Louis Meintjes lost time on the finish yesterday. George Bennett lost a little bit of time. I'd be surprised if either of those teams really wanted... I mean, unless Stevie Williams is feeling rather different about things today, of course. But I'd be surprised if they were willing to just let it roll to the finish.
We will see. All to be revealed in the next, 40 minutes or so. Don't forget, by the way, I don't want anyone to tune away, but we're not, for today anyway, we're not the only thing on, because I believe at some point we're going to be bringing you a picture-in-picture preview of the Ronde van Limburg. I hope we're not going to bring you the finish or something. Occasionally that happens, but I will warn you, don't worry. It is our colleagues, Jose Bean and Smithy, Brian Smith, who are bringing viewers here at the home of cycling, the Ronde van Limburg. That's today. To keep giving you your calendar context, of course, tomorrow it's just us here at the home of cycling, bringing you the Giro d'Abruzzo Stage 3. And then Friday, we've got a triple bill. We're bringing you the final stage of this race, alongside coverage, we're not bringing you this, but it will be here at the home of cycling. The classic Grand Besançon, which is the first of those 3 French Cup days, all back-to-back. Classic Grand Besançon on Friday, Tour du Jura on the Saturday, which I normally cover, but aren't this year. That's going to be Jose bringing you the Tour du Jura, and then I am bringing viewers coverage of the Tour de Doubs on Sunday. Those 3 all over on the eastern side, the hilly side of France. 3 really nice hilly French Cup races as well. They should be hotly contested, I suspect. They come, of course, all as part of the build-up. Well, not build-up, they come in the run-up to Amstel Gold Race, which is on Sunday. On Friday, of course, we're also bringing you coverage of the Flèche Brabançonne, the Brabantse Pijl, as it's traditionally known, the men's race on Friday, and then Amstel Gold for both the elite men and elite women too on Sunday. I love Amstel Gold, and I do love Flèche as well. It does see this Friday, don't forget, the return of one Remco Evenepoel after, well, an absolutely horrific Doring incident over the winter. He is back. We wait to see what kind of form he's back in. I have heard people in the last few days, Hutch, talking up the chances of Remco Evenepoel to win the Brabantse Pijl on Friday, and I almost don't like hearing that, because it sounds like an awful lot of pressure for someone who was in a really, really bad way after that Doring episode this winter.
Yeah, I don't think we all kind of appreciated at the time just quite how serious that was, because that was way back in late November, early December. And he's been out for months and months and months, and has clearly, if you look at his social media, it's clearly been quite a struggle to get over it and get back on his bike and get back to racing. So, but on the other hand, you're sort of saying it's a lot of pressure, but wouldn't it be, it would be a great thing if he could do it. It would be just such a confidence boost to sort of to be able to feel you're back, properly back.
Yep.
And you wouldn't put it past him. It's not that he hasn't dealt with pressure in the past.
No, and also terrible crashes in the past as well, not least at the Lombardia. As a lot of these, not just talking about the mega stars, but right the way down to continental level, national level elites and amateurs have to cope with serious crashes and injuries as well. There'll be people listening who probably come through, pretty serious episodes on and off the bike. Remco Evenepoel, though, extremely high profile. And if anything, at the moment, with so much talk about, he's come out with the wrong wheel there, I think, Hutch, by the looks of it. I think the mechanic, this is...
he brought a back wheel.
This is Fancellu, sorry. Should be spotting the white jersey. There's so many white jerseys in the race, of course it is. Now, this is pretty serious because he is in third place in general classification, started to say just 6 seconds down. He's had his wheel change and he's back in. One of his teammates coming back for him. Yeah.
The thing is that the race is just kind of beginning to start. UAE have come to the front and they're doing kind of what they did yesterday. They seem to have come to the front and started to really push on. So it's a bad moment for that. They should be okay, but it wasn't the fastest change ever.
Now, what he's not doing, he may have been on the radio. Yeah, I mean, pre-radios, you'd raise a hand to say which wheel it is. So he's come out with a rear wheel, but he's saying, no, it's a front wheel. I was always taught, raise your left hand for a front wheel puncture, right hand for a rear wheel puncture. He'd been on the radio, I think. I must admit, I've never seen a mechanic come out with just one wheel. Normally, mechanics come out with both wheels.
There's a great picture of Eddie Merckx and a mechanic trying to put a back wheel into his front forks. You'll find that somewhere.
I've never seen that. Hutch, if you find it, please do share it on your social media. I've never seen that. Wow. Excuse me. Well, I hope for the race sake and for Fancellu's sake that he does get back in smoothly. They don't look like they're absolutely hammering it.
We seem to have backed off a bit. It picked up a bit. We've got a few of the big teams came to the front, but mind you, we've got Intermarché at the front, which we haven't seen so far today.
No, still Joel Suter in the middle, Tudor rider. Sjord Bax for Q36.5 coming up alongside him. Just have a little look as well. Tudor definitely want to get something out of this, and they are setting out their stall in the post-UAE dominance at the front of this peloton at the moment. I'm not saying the UAE riders have gone anywhere, but they seem to have brought the gap back to where they wanted it, and then have shut off a little bit too. All about this one man out front, who is doing a really good ride.
Tudor have also got Matthias Rondel on 10 seconds in GC, so they've kind of got two GC riders to look after.
Yeah, Rondel, another of those super talented young Frenchmen. There's a really exciting young French generation coming through at the moment, and I'm always conscious that I don't want me or anyone to be talking about the next French Tour de France winner. I'm suggesting that's
ladle the
Rondell.
pressure
He's
on.
not. Yeah, let's go for it. He actually joins.
Didn't do any of the last lot anyhow.
No, didn't it? Sure,
No.
I think it may have done. But there we get a little look at that side-on
to
shot.
manage.
Yes.
One of my favourite
did-
riders. I was so sorry to see him retire. But anyway, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned UAE switching off the front, and they come back to it as well. Rondell himself, last year a winner of the Nations Grand Prix, the Under-23 Cup UCI races in Orléans. I'm going to be bringing viewers coverage of that here at the Home of Cycling in a few weeks' time. In actual fact, that race, as it comes around for the 25th edition. It is it's a stage race, of course, Under-23 stage race, but one of those bigger ones that's usually a really good pointer to future success. Well, this is interesting. Why on earth have we now got a Poulty rider pacing on the front, Hutch? Explain that to me. He's on the radio as well. Maybe he's apologising.
He might have just found me. He might be in there just trying to disrupt a bit. And occasionally, when you're in that group trying to disrupt things, you find yourself in the front. He didn't stay there very long.
No. Here's Fancello. He is back in. He's a rider that really caught my attention on the Sky Views of Harat Eurowid this year in the Alula Tour in Saudi Arabia, of course. It was this year, wasn't it, I think? Yeah, had a really good climb up to the top of the Sky Views of Harat Eurowid on that final stage that was won, of course, by Tom Pidcock, out front by himself. Pidcock had got over the steepest part to the top of it, which is in excess of 20%, that climb at the Alula Tour in Saudi Arabia. And Fancello was in that group that was chasing him. Climbed particularly well on that day too. He has also moved around a little bit as well. He's obviously an interesting rider, and interesting to some of the world's biggest teams too, because in 2020 he did a stagiaire stint with Trek Segafredo, then went to Aelo Cometa for 3 years, then spent last year at Q36.5, but didn't re-sign with them, and moved to the Japanese team, JCL Team Ukyo. This is one of his Japanese teammates as well.
Oldest rider in the race.
Well spotted. Yes, he is. Yeah.
41 years old.
There are. I get
Not
to
all of it's
commentate
for
on a
young
few of
people.
those. Yeah. Well, I get to commentate on quite a few of the Asia Tour races, Hutch, and there's a surprising number of Japanese professionals in JCL Team Ukyo and other teams who are over the age of 37, 38, 40, in their early 40s as well. So the Asia Tour in particular, not just in Japan, it seems to be a place where, not least with so many teams, where older riders seem to keep going longer.
I even know one or two older European riders who've gone to race in the Asia Tour. Also seems to be in Japanese Keirin racing. I think you get some older riders as well.
Yeah,
because that's that's kind of a job. I think you can almost. I think there's some people who nearly retire from Keirin racing at retirement age. Yeah, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but certainly you do get older riders in Keirin.
No, you're right. It does amaze me. I get to cover. There's a couple of Asia Tour races I cover, but most years I cover the Tour de Taiwan, and that's always one where I'm highlighting some of the older riders. And crikey, there are a lot of riders in here over the age of 37. Some, not all Asian native riders either. As you say, some of them are European riders who've gone and based themselves on the Asia Tour. Some of them have been based on the Asia Tour the whole of their career, and often viewers wouldn't know necessarily who they are if they don't follow the Asia Tour really closely. And there's some fantastic races and some brilliant riders too.
I had one or two Irish teammates who raced in the Asia Tour
Yes.
for years. David McCann, people like that.
Of course. Yep. We've got one of the very best riders on the Asia Tour in this race. It is, in fact, a teammate at JCL Team Ukyo, Koichi Yuma, who's a multiple Asian continental champion and national champion. Still a long, twisty, windy descent heading down as well. There's the difference in speed. All right. I mean, it'll depend where they are on the course, but it looks actually fairly close.
It's never a terribly helpful graphic. 22 seconds.
Final
They're
20k.
going to be able to see him quite soon.
Yeah. You might see them coming around that corner.
Yeah, they're clearly, I imagine they're probably going to catch him at the bottom of the penultimate climb, so not the climb to the finish. There's another 3 or 4 kilometre climb before that, not super steep, but I wonder if we might see things light up there. Hope we do. It'd be quite nice to have something, fizzing before we get to that final climb.
Absolutely. We are into the urban environment of Civitella Casanova, continuing to descend down there as well, and round the switchbacks after it before we start the next climb. I think actually the climb will be just after Civitella. Stream of dusty disc brakes, and the peloton down to nearly all one line by the looks of it too.
VF Group Bardiani at the front. Seen them for a little while.
Again, they were really impressive yesterday. Not least with having Martin Marcellucci in that breakaway, but then also Fiorelli being led out into the finish as well. It was really aggressive in a way, actually, between the two of them coming towards the finish. It was pretty desperate looking yesterday, but it was effective as well, taking second place.
Filippo Fiorelli won the Intergiro last year, didn't he? If I recall.
Yes, yeah. He's a great all-rounder.
Where was that? 7,000 euros and a safe driving course is what you win for the Intergiro.
Wow. He is another one of those one-team men as well. Turned pro late as well, Filippo Fiorelli. He's 30 years of age now, but didn't actually turn pro until 2020. 25 years of age, and that is quite late for someone to be turning professional, the rider from Palermo. I like the Intergiro competition. It's the... now, hang on. Let me get this right. The Intergiro is the one where there's a sprint point at the middle of each stage.
Yeah, they just sort of finish halfway.
Yeah.
And they score that like it's... yeah, exactly.
No,
it is one of the kind of the glorious absurdities of cycling in a number of different ways you can... even more so on the track, but the number of different competitions you can knit out of one race.
Yeah.
For some reason, we were talking at the weekend at the Roubaix coverage about the Tour de France combined jersey, which was the jersey that was for the best overall class across all the classifications.
Yes, yeah.
Silliest thing on earth, but, kind of brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I also like the colours of it as well, because it managed to combine all the different colours of the different jerseys. I think the Giro did a similar thing too, so... You know me, I just like pretty colours, so...
Well, I mean, to be fair, the combined jersey at the Tour de France had all the colours on them.
Hello. We've cut away from it there, but I think we've just seen Sjord Bax going on the attack. It was certainly one of the Q36.5 riders, I think, being marshalled by one of the UAE Team Emirates guys. And out front, he's doing a good job, Zoccarato, of making this look like a very steady training ride.
He's back on the climb. I suspect he might not last too long now. But to be fair, I have been predicting for several kilometres now that the gap is going to get reeled in. They're clearly happy. They're clearly happy holding him there just for the moment. But we might see something on this climb.
He is also doing a good job of it too. I've told you about Penne already, so I won't wax too much about the soup and the church. Because it's kicking off bottom right, as you can see, and there are gaps too at the front end. Although it's a tiny picture, it looks like we might have Damien Howson back on the front again, as we saw going in towards that intermediate sprint point. Now, it's still coming back together. My suspicion is there's going to be riders going out the back door. Yes, there are riders going out the back door at the moment, because the pressure's really on now, coming into the last 15 kilometres. This is the penultimate climb up to Vestea. They'll go over the top with about 12.5 kilometres to go. Then a long, 6-7 kilometre descent to a little plateau before we start that final 5k ramp to the line. A longer ramp than yesterday, not quite as steep, and it does flatten over the top. We've seen Hutch and I, just before we came on air, were looking at, as we so often do, a locked-off finish line camera. to give us our feed shot pre-live, and it looks to me like there's a little plateau over the top, that it climbs up to that point and then flattens out.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's very similar to yesterday. The biggest difference really yesterday is a little bit longer. Although we sort of talk about it all being uphill for the last 5Ks, it's not very uphill really until 3Ks to go. So it starts climbing at 5Ks. There's a little bit of a dip, and then the proper climb starts at 3 kilometres to go. It doesn't have anything like the narrow entrance that we had yesterday. Yesterday, positioning on the descent into it was very important, and we could sort of see that lead out for that position from several Ks out. It's not quite as critical this time. It's just kind of a wider, straighter road. A couple of switchbacks near the top, but by that point, it will already probably be quite spread out.
Just seen Matteo Zurlo, wearer of the King of the Mountains jersey after yesterday, going out the back, along with Simone Pitelli, who was with this man, Zoccarato, as the 2-up breakaway today. And Zoccarato now looking over his shoulder because he knows the capture is about to happen. This is starting to mirror yesterday's stage, although the breakaway was finally caught earlier yesterday. We effectively had 2 breakaways yesterday, because prior to this point we'd had that big group of, 8 or so favourites away.
Could I say it was a GC breakaway of the old style?
Very much so. But even that was brought back, and it was brought back by UAE Team Emirates, as we're seeing here. It is just one rider for them on the front, though, at the moment. Looks like the form of Rune Herogots. They're Belgian. He did a similar thing yesterday at a similar point, so my suspicion is they've been given a specific sort of working order. Yeah, that is Herogots right there. Looking at young Pavel Novak. 20 years of age, the Czech rider. He is one of those guys who's very closely looked at by some of the biggest teams in the world, Novak. He's done stagiaire stints with, I'll just bring it up because I remember looking at this, he's done a trainee stint. Stagiaire is French for trainee, by the way, people at home, if you're not sure of that term I keep using. So he's done some work experience, if you like, with Jaco Alula and with Q36.5, both those teams giving him an end-of-season tryout, but not yet signing him up. He is only 20 years of age, though. A youngster from the Czech Republic. So Rune Herogods leads. And behind him, that man again, Martin Marcellucci. And this is almost exactly what we saw yesterday. Herogods doing the early pacing towards the finish, and then Ivo Oliveira taking over. Just looking down that line to see where our leader Alessandro Covi is. Of course, we're looking for the bluey-green jersey, and I haven't seen too much of him, actually. Much.
Is that
Where is he?
No, I thought that
yes,
was
yeah, he's about 10th or he's about 15th place back, I think. It's from a distance, it's a kind of oily colour, that jersey,
it's
the blue and the green combining.
Actually.
There it is. He's just on the back wheel of one of the Israel Premier Tech riders.
It blends absolutely perfectly into a Petra like MHB Bank. It's, you know, if you wanted to pick a jersey that was going to be invisible in this bunch, that is it. Unfortunately for
why
us.
can't we just have a yellow jersey? I think this is something that UCI need to get hold of and say, look, all race leaders wear a yellow jersey. Wouldn't be too... I know there are regional...
I wouldn't like to try to make that meeting happen.
I know, but it would be... But it would... In a sport where... certainly newcomers to the newcomers as fans of the sport, you know, scratch their heads and can't work out why there's so much variety between things around the world. If you want the sport to work at an international level, all right, it doesn't have to be yellow, but one colour for the leader's jersey of all stage races that are run as UCI races. You don't want to have a yellow jersey. Sorry, I'm not saying yellow. If you don't want to have that colour that's chosen fairly, then you can't register it as a UCI race. You've got to admit, though, Hutch, I know it's harsh because there are races where the colour is very important to the nation.
On the Hammer series.
No, I'm just saying, I reckon if you put that to any newcomer to watching the sport, they would say, yes, please.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think if you went to a traditionalist and announced that we were going to stop using a pink jersey for the leader of the Giro d'Italia, it was going to be yellow instead, I think you would have petrol bombs thrown at you, so, you know.
I'm saving it
you may
when
choose your
I run
means of death, is really...
Yeah. I've said on this network before that at some point I'm going to run for UCI president. I'll save it for then. I've got no chance, by the way, obviously.
No chance.
I think you should, though.
I'd be good at that.
You said it yourself. Right. Polti Cometa.
Quite committed.
Apart from the fact that they've got Louis Menkes right in the middle of their team, they are all up here too. So they've absorbed their man. He might even be in that string, actually, because he didn't look completely hammered by the time he was brought back in. So they are up to something today. I'm just looking down for where their best finisher yesterday for Polti Cometa.
Alex Martin was 15th.
Yeah. Interesting. Maybe they're looking to try something a bit different today, but the question is, why have such numbers involved in that as well? Strange.
Yeah, equally, they're not on the front. If you can get up there, you might as well be up there.
Yeah, and it is a longer climb too. It could be about Alessandro Tonelli, because he's much more of a mountain specialist. So maybe they feel that the 5 kilometres in total, despite the fact they're not all super hard, might be enough.
Maybe they're setting Zuccarello up for the finishing climb, see if he can get some King of the Mountains points.
Of course, yep. Yep. It is a good point, Hutch. It is a second category climb, this finale, as well, isn't it? I'd forgotten to mention that. Second cat climb, so 5, 3, 2 and 1 points. I can't believe that would be... Well, that would be interesting. That would be quite something, wouldn't it?
No,
if they lead him out for the 5 points, and he happens to win the stage as well. I wonder, when we have classified finishing climbs, it's almost impossible to know this, but has there ever been a rider who's scored points at... No, you can't prove it. It's almost the impossible thing to even discuss, but a rider who's deliberately gone for the finish just to get the mountains points, and has then, presumably scored a place in the top 10, but they weren't going for the stage, they were going for the mountains points on the finishing climb.
That must have happened.
I just love that scenario.
It depends how far down the points go, because we've got, if you had a super category climb at the finish of this race, the points go all the way down to 10th. I mean, clearly you get up there, you might win the stage. It wouldn't be the worst thing that ever happened to you, but I'm sure there are people whose first priority and teams whose first priority was trying to get someone in position for the mountain points.
Unfortunately, it does go back a little bit to my earlier argument, for whatever my own personal opinion is worth, that the finish should be about the finish, even if it is on a mountain or a climb. I always think classifying the finish is just a bit of a shame, because it means suddenly you'll have GC riders right up there in the King of the Mountains competition who had no intention of bothering about the King of the Mountains competition. Others, of course, will say, well, that means they're the best climbers, and the best climbers should be listed in the King of the Mountains rankings. But it's not, though, is it? King of Mountains is a hill sprints competition, effectively, isn't it? It's one that rewards finishing on specific high points of the course. So anyway,
you really just don't like cycling, do you?
I'm going on about... No, it's funny, whenever I do short stage races, it always highlights for me the importance of the individual journey. In longer stage races, it's not, it spreads out a bit more, but in short ones, when you start to see riders and teams who are really targeting one particular jersey, I do feel like it's hard to get right. By the way, I'm not criticising race organisers, because it is very hard to get this right, and also to know how it's going to be taken on, across the course of 4 days. Having been sitting back and waiting, now Polti visit Malta decided to take over the front, so they're going to do the pacing at the moment. I'd have thought Alessandro Covi and UAE Team Emirates would be very happy to see this, Hutch, I presume.
They'll be pleased to see it. Q36.5 will be happy to see it. I assume they're trying to set up Alessandro Tonelli, would be my guess, but I'm not very confident in that.
Keep an eye on who else starts
We've only 9.2 kilometres to go, so we're going to be climbing in 4 kilometres' time. So we're getting towards the sharp end of that. I was a little bit surprised we didn't see more on that penultimate climb. Possibly it just wasn't steep enough. It was only really 3 or 4%, and into a headwind, which which would make it a little bit harder. But we are clearly boiling up to possibly a fairly frantic last 5 kilometres here.
Yeah, we've got a tiny bit of flat at the bottom of this descent before we start those 5k of climbing. And it's also meant the speed on the descent has meant that it's been quite hard for some riders to move up without unnecessarily just basically not breaking into some of the corners and moving up on the outside. We're seeing there the purpley pink, the Cyclamen it's called, points jersey, as worn by Filippo Fiorelli. He was quite a long way down. He's now moving up quite quickly as well. Bardiani, CSF Faisani rider up alongside Marco Brenner.
Yeah,
and
just behind. Just behind George Bennett and tucked beside.
Yeah.
Marco Brenner. So
that's interesting. The 3 of them together. I'm presuming Marco Brenner is probably on George Bennett's wheel for good reason there as well. They're very near the front anyway. But this is definitely a finish that will suit George Bennett a bit better, the Kiwi. It was interesting to hear him talk at the start there, Hutch, as well. This is very much the George Bennett Mark II. In the early days in his career, he was really being touted for very big things and gave some interesting interviews, I think at the end of last year or halfway through last year, not long after moving to Israel Premier Tech. Sorry, it might be the end of yes, it would have, sometime last year, 2024. During the early years that he was at, back then it was Lotto NL Jumbo, he put in some fantastic climbing performances, not least when he won the Tour of California and then beyond then as well in Lombardia and other races. And he gave a really honest interview last year where he talked about, saying, basically accepting that he was a good, great elite rider. I'm not saying, these aren't exactly his words, but basically saying, I've accepted I'm not part of that generation of, those mega stars of the sport at the moment, the guys who can seemingly do everything. And I've learned to operate within my means and how to get the most out of my body without putting too much pressure on myself. And I think some of the pressure that he experienced in that environment is off his shoulders a little bit by the sound of it at Israel Premier Tech.
Yeah, when he's coming to races like this, to ride for GC here and coach whoever he can get, and it's a very different ballgame from the pressure that was on him when he was being sort of sent to ride, because he was riding big races as a protected rider.
You've just got to look there. When we go back to the back of the peloton, we might get a chance to see him again. Fascinating jersey. It is the jersey of the Panama National Road Race champion, Roberto Carlos Gonzalez. There are 2 Panamanian riders in the Team Solution Tech Vinny Fantini team, and Roberto Carlos Gonzalez is right at the very back wearing a fantastic Panama National Champion jersey. It does blend in a little bit because their flag is a red and white check with alternating white square with a red dot in it. That's a horrific description of a flag, but we'll see it again if we cut back there. And hello, we've got an attack off the front as well. I hadn't seen this coming. This is one of the Team Technipes, I think I'm saying that right. It's the Emilia-Romagna team that's gone back years. It used to be just called Emilia-Romagna. It is now Team Technipes. Technipes, I think it is, in the red and black. One of their riders, I haven't yet seen who. It's an all-Italian team. They're all super young, as you mentioned yesterday.
It's a very young team, yeah. Yeah, I think average age of 19 or 19 and a half.
It's Marco Martini, the 19-year-old, one of 5 19-year-olds in that team. The road captain is the very experienced 21-year-old Luca Bagnara. Well, he has to be, because he's the only one over the age of 20, so he's got to be the road captain, sharing all of his experience.
Complaining about the youngsters in the team, exactly.
Yeah, back in my day.
These kids.
Nice to see this though, because technically they're one of the smaller teams in the race. He's got a teammate back there sitting on the back wheel of Alessandro Covi, just getting in the way of things as well. So I'm impressed with Technipes, the Emilia-Romagna team, going on the attack and also trying to.
For the day. He's staying committed, but not confident it's going to work. We are just sort of getting towards the beginning of the proper climb.
Well, this is interesting because it's Tonelli on the front. Alessandro Tonelli leads from Alex Martin in second, and they have Ludovicio Crescioli in third there. So I don't think they're working for any of those three.
Crescioli is only 17 seconds down on the GC. So he was finished 13th in that Group 10 or 10, whatever it was, seconds back yesterday. So he's clearly in decent form, and a decent form for a Hilltop finish.
This is actually a good ride by Marco Martini here out front, because he's still not been caught yet, and it is one of those kind of attacks that actually he won't be seen as a big threat. And we're talking about him. We're talking about his team. No one's obviously chasing in the way that they would if it was a rider from Israel Premier Tech or a rider from UAE. It's just Polte carrying on with the pace setting that they would have been doing anyway. Nice to see. Nice to see at any level riders from one of the smallest teams in the race having a go. Let's hope it encourages others in there too. There's absolutely no way, Hutch, is there, that this size of group is going to come to the finish together, surely. I know it's a 5k climb, but it goes up to 10%, but there's got to be much more of a sort out.
Thought so. I mean, this is already a slight, quite a thinned out peloton. We've lost quite a lot of riders just looking at it, but I'd be surprised if they're all going to come to the finish together. But I mean, we might have a decent sized group, because it's not absolutely on yet. There's a kind of a waiting game going on here.
Well, this is us on the climb now. We have 3k to go. And the climbing proper has started. You see Marco Brenner right up the front. Always very easy to spot this season in that German champion skin suit. You also see the Cyclamen jersey, the points jersey of Filippo Fiorelli moving up the outside. Martin Marcellucci swings out this time early, so he's not going to go as deep into the finish as he did yesterday. Polte Visit Malta doing a really good job here of putting the pressure on the other teams, including UAE Team Emirates and everyone. So I'm hopeful they'll get something out of this today. Alessandro Covi, though, sitting right there, and he has Ivo Oliveira in front of him. We could be looking at a very similar result to yesterday at the moment, Hutch, as we look at it.
For UAE, it's going how they want. They've got a group team on the front keeping everything under control. They're sitting quite well positioned. Covi's got Oliveira with him a lot like he did yesterday, and it worked pretty well yesterday. Brenner is tucked in quite close behind him, and I think that's George Bennett behind him. So this is going to go in a minute or two, isn't it?
I can't help but think, if I was, say, Georg Zimmermann, I can see Zimmermann back there, the German, for Intermarché Wanty, someone like that, or even Brenner, I certainly wouldn't be waiting for Oliveira to lead out Covi, because I don't think there's anyone at the front of this race looking at yesterday that will be able to beat Covi at a finish like this, not least because it flattens out over the top, and he's a very good sprinter. He's looking back now as well. We need to see some attacking, I think, if they're going to beat Covi, because I don't see it happening any other way.
Brenner looked very good in the final yesterday. I think he got slightly boxed into the right-hand side of the road, so he's a possibility. But on the other hand, the gaps are such that actually people need to get, time bonuses aren't going to do it at this point.
Yeah, 10, 6 and 4, those time bonuses on the finish line today. Valerio Conti is moving up. We saw him having problems yesterday with his bike. The Italian still finished strongly yesterday, though. He's the rider with the yellow sleeves, just off the back of Fancellu, Alessandro Fancellu, who's up there. So we'll keep an eye on that white Best Young Riders jersey. He looks comfortable back there, Fancellu, doesn't he? And now we're seeing Filippo.
One of the riders from General Store tucked up at the front, which is one of the smaller teams in the race. It's a strong ride. Can't see who it is.
It might be Dennis Locke.
Dennis Locke, I agree.
Yeah, their Danish rider who was right up there at the finish yesterday as well. We'll keep an eye on that as I have to confess, I'm learning quite a few new riders here in some of these teams as well. And Dennis Locke yesterday, it is him with the number 26 on his back. Well spotted, Hutch. The Dane, one of two Danes in that General Store SCGB team. Keep an eye on him.
He looks comfortable.
Yeah. And there is the Panamanian Road Race Champions jersey again as we cut away from it. This time it looks like Sjor Back's going on the attack. He's already done this once today. Being covered by, I think it's Rune Herregaard's this time. So it's Q36.5 that opens things up. It's 1,500 metres to go, and that has switched off the Polti Visit Malta pace setting. So I hope for their sake they get something out of this, because they put a lot into this stage. Now it's Oliveira who's going. Ivo Oliveira going on the attack. Georg Zimmermann going after him. This is a massive hit out from Oliveira, and this is for him. This has got nothing to do with the race leader, Alessandro Covi. Yesterday he was leading Covi out, and I think everyone would have expected him to be doing that today. But Ivo Oliveira looked so good yesterday. I could see him winning from here, Hutch, by the looks of this.
Well, if he win from here, he's also going to absorb some of the time bonus seconds, which doesn't do Alessandro Covi any harm either.
This is a wonderful opportunity this week for the likes of someone like... He is, and it's a nice opportunity for us to see Ivo Oliveira getting opportunity for himself. So often in that team he's working for others, and he has struck out really hard by himself. It was Georg Zimmermann who went after him. I thought Zimmermann might be able to get on, but the German definitely not. I think he's going to be fed back in by the looks of it. That is the Flamme Rouge, 1k to go. It's still quite close though. Ivo Oliveira out front by himself. It is a Tudor jersey chasing front, yes. Zimmermann.
Covi in the second wheel in the bunch, I think.
Yeah, so if they do catch Oliveira, they've got Covi ready to go over the top. It's perfect, this. And you'd expect that when UAE Team Emirates is one of... Well, it is the biggest team in the race. It's the #1 team in the world. They just do winning. It's what they do. It's their business.
Gap isn't coming down yet. And we must be inside 700 metres to go. He's looking over his shoulder, though. Maybe not.
Zimmermann is caught, and by looking at his form, I don't think he'll be featuring in the top 10. Ivo Oliveira also now having to work really hard. That was a massive hit out by him to get clear in the first place. Can he hold on? We're looking at the front shot from the finish as well. It's a fascinating one, though, because it's now flattening out as well. And those who've survived high up over the climb now have to turn to sprinter. Marco Brenner well positioned. In what, third wheel of the rest of them. It's one Tudor rider trying to close up on Ivo Oliveira, but I think Oliveira's done enough now. He goes for the drops and is just desperately hanging on to whatever he's got left. 200 metres to go for Oliveira. Here comes the purple jersey of Filippo Fiorelli up the outside. And looks like Oliveira has done enough at this stage. He's onto that little drop down to the finish line. Filippo Fiorelli going as well to see if he can try and get a little bit closer or get a bit of daylight. But Ivo Oliveira's done enough. What a brilliantly timed late attack. UAE Team Emirates get 2 stages in a row. And looks like Filippo Fiorelli has taken second again on the line, just ahead of Marco Brenner. UAE Team Emirates have had a day today where they haven't actually had to do that much pace setting in the second half, and yet they prove their dominance. 2 days in a row, Hutch.
2 days in a row. That was a beautifully timed late attack from Ivo Oliveira. Those kind of things don't usually work. The kind of things you see tried again and again and again, and the timing is just so important. There was a bit of momentum went out of the bunch. Polti Visit Malta slackened off just a little bit. He went at exactly the right moment and he stayed away. Fiorelli, who's second and GC second across the line, so he's picked up some time bonuses there. Was that enough to take him? That should take him to a share of the lead. Depends a bit where.
Ooh, yes.
Where Covi finished.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. He's only just finished, but I make that Ivo Oliveira's 4th professional victory, which is another reason why he's so emotional. You can see it here. What a brilliant result for another rider who gives so much to that team, working in the support of others, and has done since he joined them when he turned pro in 2019. 28 years of age now, Ivo Oliveira, and you can see what it means to that man in a team who just do winning as their business constantly. And they do it again.
So you just see the inertia just went out, and he just timed that from a few wheels back, so nobody quite saw him coming. It was just, it takes that second or two just to get on his wheel. Zimmermann was the first to react to go after him, but he was never really close to getting back on, was he? No, Zimmermann gave it everything, but, well, I think Zimmermann did what Oliveira did, and that was a full-on attack, absolutely maximal, wasn't it? And you've got to be in good form to be able to recover from that and then keep it going, and Oliveira was able to. The Portuguese rider. It's just so nice to see, particularly to see a UAE Team Emirates rider, Hutch, who wins so much,
and see how much it means to him to be winning his 4th professional victory here.
Yeah,
this is a guy.
Lagos, his last victory might have been a couple of years ago, I think.
Well, he won. He's won national road race title in Portugal and the time trial title.
He won the
And he
TT
won a
last year.
stage.
He won the road race 2 years ago.
Yeah. This is a look across the Lago di Penny. And there is that top 10. Oliveira, the UAE Team Emirates winner of the day, ahead of Filippo Fiorelli, who's second for the 2nd day in a row. You've got a feel for him. Marco Brenner a bit better. And the leader going into this stage, Alessandro Covi, in 4th. George Bennett once again right there, but not taking the spoils, as was Alessandro Fancellu, the white jersey wearer today. Looking at that top 10, it's very similar to yesterday's top 10. Pretty much the same riders there, Hutch.
It's a bit of a shuffle, yeah. There's
Yeah.
Dennis Locke rolling into
Yeah.
the top 10 for
Yeah.
General Store, which is nice to see.
Right, now looking at this is interesting. Filippo Fiorelli with his 2nd place, taking the time bonuses, and if this is correct, he moves up into the race lead ahead of Alessandro Covi. And where is Ivo Oliveira in that? That's provisional. Does that look right to you, Hutch?
Yeah, it looked okay to me.
I'm going to look back at how
Ivo
much
Oliveira
time.
was 42 seconds down
There we
coming
go,
into this
there we
morning,
go.
so you wouldn't expect him to
Yeah.
feature in that.
No.
He lost time on the last time yesterday.
We're going to bring you now, I think, an interview with Ivo Oliveira. Shortly after that, we're actually going to switch over, I think, to coverage of the Volta Limburg. Those of you who are watching. So for those of you who are still with us, we're actually looking back. We've seen this shot already today, I think, the rocky outcrop overlooking the Apennine Mountains. And we are just about to bring you, I think, an interview with our winner, Ivo Oliveira, who I think might be quite emotional because it was a big win for him today.
Ivo, can you believe that you've won?
No, I'm still speechless. After a lot of setbacks and working for the team, I was really happy to take this victory, take the chance. It was supposed to be for Covi, this stage. I speak to him 4Ks to go and I say, just stay on the wheel and I will try to anticipate. And we have 2 cards to play. He was super good with me, he was super nice, and he said, yeah, go for it, no problem. And yeah, 1.5K to go. I just did my last attack. It was a bit steeper than I thought, and I thought the last 500 meters I was really short on my power, but yeah, it was enough, and I cannot believe. I'm so emotional. I think outside prologues and national victory, I think this was my first victory in the team as a road race, so I'm super proud. The team believe in me, my family, my girlfriend, and this is for them. Thank you to them.
It's one of the nicest efforts in cycling. 2 years ago, your former teammate Finn Fischer-Black did exactly the same at Il Giro di Sicilia. Is this a UAE speciality?
Yeah, I mean, this team is so strong, and we work as a family, and we have so many options. And yeah, I know I have a super good kick. It's like doing a 4K individual pursuit effort, and I really like this kind of finish. And the pace was not so high, so I could keep control and have like I know if I have a 100 meters gap, it's really hard to close on me. And fortunately, I was feeling good. Not really good during the stage, but in the final, yes. So super proud, I'm super happy, super emotional. I cannot believe I just did this.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, that is so nice to hear, not least from a rider in a team that wins so much. UAE Team Emirates, of course, the team of Tadej Pogacar. Lovely,
13th,
lovely to hear.
different winner, 13th different winner for UAE Team Emirates this season.
Remarkable, isn't it? And how many wins is that in total?
20, 22, 23.
Amazing,
Something
amazing,
like
absolutely amazing. This overhead shot looked like he was tiring a little bit, Hutch, but I just think it's more the height we're seeing it from, and then seeing it from the front, it looked the same as well. You thought the catch might be about to happen. I wasn't expecting the change of winner to go the way it did, though, to Filippo Fiorelli. So at least the man who's now finished second 2 days in a row has amassed enough bonus seconds and finishing consistency to take over the bluey-green jersey.
I wonder whether it cost Alessandro Covi slightly. Would he have been better placed if he had it out back in the bunch? Because obviously he's lost the lead of the race by a handful of seconds. Possibly it doesn't make any difference. They may, 4-day stage race, they may be happy not to have the jersey for tomorrow's stage, because it's going to throw a little bit more weight onto VF.
Well, dearie me, that's a problem. I don't know if that is a problem. You'll have just seen what I just saw, Hutch. I think Alessandro Covi might have forgotten himself a bit there, but he actually celebrated on the line. The new rule is about if it endangers others. I don't think it looked too dangerous, but he'll know afterwards, I think. It's probably a moment, oh, I didn't spot that crash. I thought I saw something happening in the final corner. It was the Tudor rider. I don't know who that is yet. I hope he's okay. But that was in the final bend. And then if we look here, Covi is currently in fourth. He finishes fourth as well. This is obviously going for second place, but Covi sitting up and celebrating in amongst that sprint, as well. As we know now, if you do that and it's considered to have been dangerous or to have obstructed others, well, you can find yourself receiving either a yellow card or being I don't want to be the person to point it out, but I think it was glaringly obvious as we looked at it, and there's no doubt about it, it will have been seen by everyone at the finish. It's tempting to do it because he's celebrating what they just discussed, the fact that Covi said, no, for goodness sake, you go for it yourself. Oliveira did. They want that finish line photo of the teammates celebrating behind in the race leader's jersey. But it's a dying picture, that. I don't think we'll see too many more like that because riders don't want to be served with penalties. He might be all right, though, because I don't think
it's mainly aimed at kind of lead-out riders celebrating as they're going back through a bunch and a bunch sprint. I don't really aimed at a thinned-out bunch like that. I'd be a little bit surprised. I think they'll probably overlook it. You can see why he's celebrating, because obviously if he and Oliveira had kind of discussed this as an option, you look very dumb if it doesn't work for either of you.
Another fantastic finish by Filippo Fiorelli in that Cyclamen jersey, and with that actually he's probably made that Cyclamen jersey his own too, to go with the race lead. I don't see anyone complaining around Alessandro Covi.
Although I'll tell you what, it's one of the problems in cycling is that rules are inconsistently enforced. There are other sports where that would be a yellow card or probably relegation to the back of the group, whatever. Whether it was dangerous or not, it's just a rule that you're not allowed to do it. Cycling as such always had problems with is the rule going to be enforced today or not? How sticky is a sticky bottle? How sticky a bottle are you allowed? It depends who's looking at it and who you are and what the team is and what the race situation is. Or indeed wild cards for the Grand Tours this year.
Exactly. No, I mean, it didn't. To us, I think you'd agree with me, Hutch, it didn't look dangerous, but he's still doing it. And maybe the way to rule out the ambiguity is to say, you don't do it. No, I don't know.
I mean, I've come across in crit racing riders being disqualified for celebrating themselves.
Yeah.
In
the United Kingdom, it's quite common.
Hannah Barnes in the Newport Nocturne a few years ago, I think, was disqualified and then reinstated. There was a whole Barney about it. I think it was Hannah.
There's a purpose-built criterium circuit not far from me that I won't name, and you'll know it well, Hutch, where certainly over the last few years, riders starting evening criteriums there have been warned, when you win, do not take your hands off the bars and celebrate. Because they've had too many people doing that and then crashing. So they've just basically said, we're briefing you now, don't do it.
Third cap crit racing for you.
That's it. Anyway, right, we're looking back at the stage. Lots of work put into it by Holti Visit Malta. In the end, now let me just check I'm not going to get this wrong, didn't get a rider in the top 10 either, so impressive work by them.
Much out of it.
No, but he did. Ivo Oliveira, emotional, elated, despite the fact that he's at a team where they've had, as Hutch has said, 22 or so professional victories already this year. He will be spraying the Astoria, what did I say it was called? It's not champagne, it's Prosecco, isn't it?
Prosecco.
We presume. Well, another of those days where it started off bright and sunny in Tocco di Casauria, and in Penne a little bit cloudier, but still nice conditions. No need to put on an extra layer for the podium. Don't tell me we're going to get 4 days of the UAE Team Emirates lockout. I don't think so. I certainly wouldn't have seen it coming, and there's enough other teams in there. In fact, all the other teams, by the looks of it, Hutch, you want to make sure that doesn't happen, but they're halfway to it already.
Well, goodness, they tried to stop it happening today.
Yeah. Interesting. I must admit, when we saw Oliveira coming towards the finish, the fact that Herregods had done the same pacing yesterday, I really did think we were on for a Kobe 1-2, but he did look good yesterday, didn't he, this guy? Yeah. A very sparing, single mouthful. He'll be ready to go again tomorrow. And so will we, because tomorrow, we think, will be the Queen stage between San Demetrio di Vestini and Roccaraso, the big finale, the 18-kilometre uphill finish tomorrow.
It'll be a very different finish tomorrow.
I think so. I don't think it'll be Ivo Oliveira winning up there. We should see the best climbers, the George Bennetts, the Fancellus of this world. And Brenner, maybe, who's looked good again today, coming to the fore.
He looked good the last 2 days. On the kind of climbs that aren't absolutely his bread and butter, and he would probably like something a little bit longer, so see what he can do. So the team were kind of, his team were quite committed today as well.
Well, Filippo Fiorelli here has been amply supported by his team. Second 2 days in a row. And he takes over the race lead. He'll be in the, we've got to think of a better thing to call it than this, but the bluey-green leader's jersey.
Camouflage leader's jersey.
Yeah. Well, it's going to, will it go with his kit? Well, no, it goes beautifully with his kit, doesn't it?
Yeah, that could be their away jersey.
It reminds me of something. I'm trying to think what it is. It reminds me of another team or something. I can't think what it is. Green. There was a guy, I know what it is. Kelme. I'm sure Kelme in the late maybe mid-90s had a blue
white in there. But yeah, Kelme had a friend of mine wears one to this day, white and red, and white and blue and green.
Good lad. It's a nice looking jersey. It's the sort of jersey that you could see people wearing, out on the bike. It's a nice look.
It looks a little bit like what you'd get if you got ChatGPT to design. If you fed ChatGPT all the jerseys that are in this race and got ChatGPT to design you a cycling jersey, it looks a little bit like that's what you'd get.
There he is.
Quite smart looking.
Yep. So we've got 2 Italians on top of the standings. Filippo Fiorelli ahead of Alessandro Covi, who moves down 1. I'm sure this looks different to the GC we saw earlier, but we'll go through it as it is. It's the most recent one. Marco Brenner up into 3rd and looking good for tomorrow. Alessandro Fancellu down 1 from 3rd to finish in the same place he finished today in 4th. Sorry, he was 4th yesterday, wasn't he? There's the preview for tomorrow's stage, 160 kilometres. We'll have a little look at the map as well. It finishes on a first category climb, as I say, too. And it's another twisty, windy mountain day. Up in the Apennines, it is the most southerly, where it finishes in Roccaraso, but it's got a lot of hills to go over before that point too. First category tomorrow, and then a first category finale. So 2 big lots of points to be scored in the King of the Mountains classification. Make sure you join me, Jez Cox, and Michael Hutchinson again tomorrow for the Queen stage of the Giro d'Abruzzo. Until then, though, from both of us, bye-bye.